Okay, so you have Montgomery County. This is going to be all about Montgomery County, Kentucky. So what do you know about Montgomery County? Well, let's begin. It's got actually an incredible Native American battle sort of massacre in 1793, which I'll get to here in a second. It is, let's see, it's a county in the U.S. state of Kentucky. As of the 2010 census, the population was 26,499. The county seat is Mount Sterling. So Mount Sterling is the capital of Montgomery County. Mount Sterling is the city that has the Nestle plant that had hired that Bosnian war criminal. But she had actually lived in Powell County, but worked in Mount Sterling. With regard to the sale of alcohol, is classified as a moist county. It's a county in which alcohol sales are prohibited. So Montgomery County itself is dry. You cannot buy any alcohol in Montgomery County, but there's a wet city where packaged alcohol sales are allowed in Mount Sterling. So that's Montgomery is part of Mount Sterling, Kentucky Micropolitan Statistical Area, which is also included in the Lexington, Fayette, Richmond, Frankfort, Kentucky Combined Statistical Area. So that's how small Lexington and Frankfort are. They got to combine Lexington, Frankfort, Richmond, and Fayette County. So these are like, cities that are counties wide. So the 1793 attack is shoe boots. So get ready for shoe boots. I read some of these, the last attack. I want to say it was some station, Morgan Station. So the raid on Morgan Station, the last Indian attack in Kentucky, which was a massacre. It was a total massacre. But the book I just wanted to quickly mention had said that perhaps a young Tecumseh was a part of this raid. And so that was pretty awesome. There was also two white people that were on the opposite. I want to say John Ward. They're on the opposite sides of the battle. One was fighting for the Native Americans, and the other one was fighting for, I guess, the whites. So what happened in 1793, you had shoe boots, whose Native American name is Tarsekayaki. Tarsekayaki. So Tarsekayaki shoe boots led Cherokee and Shawnee warriors in a raid on Morgan Station, which is now known as the last Indian raid in Kentucky. Some settlers were killed, and two adolescent girls, including Clorinda Allington, were taken captive, and the party returned to Cherokee territory. Believing he had saved Clorinda's life, shoe boots later married her, and they had 3 children together. He was a wealthy, successful leader. Several years later, Clorinda gained a visit back to her family in Kentucky with her children and decided to stay. They could not support her, but the state voted a 3-year pension for her. Montgomery County was established in 1796, 3 years later, from land given by Clark County, named after William Rogers Clark, who, the great conqueror of the Northwest. Very young, actually ambitious person, but killed lots of Native Americans. He was one of the bloodiest Native American genociders out there. So, Montgomery County was the 22nd Kentucky county in order of formation. Montgomery County was named in honor of Richard Montgomery, an American Revolutionary War brigadier general killed in 1775 while attempting to capture Quebec City, Canada. So awesome that he's an American Revolutionary War hero, but what the fuck are we trying to take over Canada for? Richard Montgomery's in Quebec City, trying to take over Canada. An alternative story holds that the county was named for Thomas Montgomery from Virginia. So just like Annapolis, you have sort of 2 origin names. Where did Montgomery... I grew up on Montgomery Road, so perhaps Montgomery, the name itself is just a popular name. And so it could be named after Thomas Montgomery from Virginia, who also served in the Revolutionary War. In 1793, Thomas Montgomery settled in Mount Sterling. And then 1805, Thomas Montgomery moved on to Gibson County in Indiana. So that would be an interesting... Thomas Montgomery seems like more of a regular kind of guy, and perhaps like Lincoln's father or Daniel Boone, the land titles, because it went from a Daniel Boone poor man's country to a aristocratic Henry Clay country that changed to the lawyers. The fucking legal hounds were able to just kind of fuck over Kentucky and help, their rich paymasters out. Man, I look really bald. Okay, so Montgomery County is either named after Richard Montgomery or Thomas Montgomery. So just to give you some sort of, sense of what we're dealing with, it's population 26,500. It's the 6th Congressional District, Eastern Time Zone. U.S. Census says the county has a total of 199 square miles, and 197 square miles is land, and 1.5 square miles is water. Bourbon County, Bath County, Menifee County, Powell County, and Clark County are all surrounding Montgomery County. It's 95% white, 3.5% black, 0.15% Native American, 0.11% Asian, 0.03% Pacific Islander, 0.35% other races, 0.82% two or more races, 1.15% of the population were Hispanic or Latino of any race. Very white, 95% white, and then you have, a lot of poverty, right? The same is pretty much true of every county. It has less poverty actually than a lot of other states, but still 12.5% of families and 15% of the population were below the poverty line. That's 3 out of 20. So 3 out of every 20 people is poor. So it's better than other actually counties. Very white, has some poverty, no big surprise there. The communities in Montgomery County is Mount Sterling, which is the capital, the county seat. You also have Levy, Kentucky. You got Judy, Kentucky, Jeffersonville, and Camargo. So Levy, Judy, Jeffersonville, and Camargo. I want to keep on talking about this old shoe boots. Old shoe boots. One of my favorite actually Native Americans was, I want to say his name is Red Stockings or Red Socks. The Native American, name translates to the English Red Stockings. He had found some red socks, and he started wearing red socks, and that became his Native American name. He had something to do with fighting Estelle, Captain Estelle, and Estelle, and a lot of these Native American, a lot of these Kentucky counties are named after Indian killers, and a lot of times it's like Custer, the Indian losers. They tried to be Indian killers, but they failed and wound up getting shot, so they named them in honor of, of whatever, I guess, of them trying to murder. You tried to kill Native Americans, like Clark County. So the Clark County is right next to Montgomery County. Clark County is probably one of the biggest. The last known village of Kentucky was Skippakithiki, and it was in Clark County. So the last known village, supposedly there was no permanent establishment. But what about Skippakithiki? And what about Shinoa? And what about Inwani? And so there's 3 major towns that at least we know of today. Some people wrote some of this shit down. Some of the, a lot of people just went in and killed and tried to get the furs and tried to get all the, raw materials that they could without writing any of this shit down. But the Clark County, so you have the last Shawnee town of Skippakithiki, which was a trading town. There's French were there and English traders, lots of Native Americans, big town. And it was the last known Shawnee, it essentially got wiped out at the beginning of the French and Indian War. So is that a shocker? The French and Indian War happened, and then the Shawnees just happened to be, the bystander, sort of, not an innocent bystander, but they were always appealed to ally one or the other, and then, eventually their entire fucking town has been ransacked. And so the French generally seem to be better at trade relations. They wanted good trade relations so they can, get good deals from the natives, but the British seemed more about conquering and dominating over, the Native Americans. My point being is, if you go to Clark County, which is named after William Rogers Clark, one of the best, genociders, like an Andrew Jackson kind of genocider, but the county is named on top of the last Shawnee town. So where's the Skippakithiki? There's only like a marker, and there's not even close. Nobody even knows where the fucking, town actually really was. And so Skippakithiki has been eliminated, deleted into the dust bowls of history. Meanwhile, Clark, his name carries on. So, shoe boots, this raid, the last raid in Kentucky, it was pretty bad. He didn't just, take this little girl and then eventually, had children with her later on, several years later, they said, and believing he had saved Clorinda's life. I don't know, we're trying to defend fucking shoe boots here. Tarsikayaki. He's even worse. He also has slaves. And so, but he's got a big family, and so there's, people that live today that know something about Tarsakayaki, old Shoe Boots. So Shoe Boots was a full-blood Cherokee slave owner, farmer, and veteran war hero who fought for the Cherokee in the Battle of Horseshoe Bend during the Creek War. Shoe Boots fathered 3 children with a woman named Doll, a slave whom he acquired in the late 1700s. Since the children were born to a slave, they inherited Doll's slave status. On October 20th, 1824, Shoe Boots petitioned the Cherokee National Council to grant emancipation for his children and have them recognized as free Cherokee citizens. Shoe Boots stated in his petition, "These are the only children I have as citizens of this nation, and as the time I may be called to die is uncertain, my desire is to have them as free citizens of this nation. Knowing what property I may have is to be divided amongst the best of my friends, how can I think of them having bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh to be called their property, and this by my imprudent conduct, and for them and their offspring to suffer for generations yet unborn is a thought too great a magnitude for me to remain silent any longer." After consideration, his request was granted by the Cherokee National Council on November 6, 1824. While Shoe Boots was ordered by the council to cease fathering children with Doll, he fathered 2 twin sons before his death in 1829. So he still kept fucking her, still had kids. And this is weird. This is saying that he had, kids from a woman named Doll. This is from CherokeeRegistry.com, and Wikipedia. It says that Clorinda, he had 3 children with Clorinda. And, so there's apparently more kids. There's at least 9 kids total that this Shoe Boots even had. And I don't even know where he's from. He just had the attack in Montgomery County. He just come to Levy, Kentucky. We don't know anything about Levy. Camargo is a home rule class city in Montgomery. The population is 1,081 in 2010 census. It is named by soldiers returning from the Mexican-American War, either in honor of the county or place of Camargo in Mexico or a Mexican entertainer of that name. The post office was established in 1848 and closed in 1963. So I'm sure Camargo, the people of Camargo, Kentucky, love that they're named after either a Mexican individual, a entertainer, or a state or county or something of Camargo in Mexico. So they fought the Mexican-American War, came back and named the town after, I guess a town that they had fought in. Mexican-American War is one of those wars. I remember, I was using the argument, defending Abraham Lincoln. Well, today, do you like that we are the United States of America today? Do you like that we're a union today? And in hindsight, I think it's really good. I think it's good that we're the United States. Did we have to fight and force people militarily? I wished we hadn't done that. But is there a different way? Was there a different way? I think of the Mexican-American War the same way. Polk lied us into war, and then eventually he doubles the fucking size of the country. So is that good or bad? I don't know. I like that we're the the United States of America. But that's Mexican-American. If there's Native American, Mexicans have Native American blood and the conquistador blood. So they've been here for the 10,000 years that Native Americans have been here. We've just been here, white people in general. On my German side, it's been here 150 years. But, in, I guess, even the long extent since maybe the 1600s, 1492, right? So for, at the most, 500 years, and at the least just 200 or 300 years. So someone who's been here for 10,000 years versus just a couple hundred years. But that's just totally looking at race. So Camargo is actually 99% white, and they have 0.54% Hispanic or Latinos. So the whole town is named after a Mexican county or town or province of some sort, or an entertainer, Camargo. So that's actually that's exciting. I think that's pretty neat. And then 23.6% and 27% of the population are below the poverty line, including 31% of those under 18 and 31.5% of those age 65 or over. So that's 1 out of 4. Lots of fucking poor people. Out of 1,000, you got at least 250 people out of 1,000 that are poor in Camargo. And Camargo is in Montgomery County, Jeffersonville, Kentucky. is a home. I haven't really got down to Shoe Boots. Shoe Boots has this raid in Kentucky, and they killed 2 people, and then they have about 20 prisoners, and then they tomahawk 12 of them, and they kill 12 of them on the way back. So they're like, do we want to take these prisoners and sell them? They're like, fuck it, let's just kill them. So it was pretty dark and pretty bloody. And what was the reason? I don't know. It was Shawnee and Cherokee, so both of those tribes can lay claim to Kentucky as their homeland, so perhaps that was the reason. I don't know. I don't know what the fuck Shoe Boots was doing. So Jeffersonville, it's a home rule class city in Montgomery County. Population is 1506. Jeffersonville began as an important cattle trading center in eastern Kentucky during the mid-19th century. It was then known as Tick Town, either for the tick grass in the area or for the ticks in the cattle pens. Old fucking Tick Town, Jeffersonville. Although it is unknown when the settlement became known as Jeffersonville, the first post office was established under that name March 9th, 1866. It presumably honors President Thomas Jefferson. And then Jeffersonville was incorporated in March 20th, 1876. 99% white, and 14 to 18% of the population below the poverty line, 22% under the age of 18, 19% of those age 65 or over. There's public schools, private schools. I don't know, this for only 1,500, there seems to be some shit going on in Old Tickville, Old Jeffersonville. Judy, Kentucky is an unincorporated community, like Annapolis, named after, a Judy. Burnside, here in Pulaski County, I think it was named after a woman who killed herself right before it got changed to Burnside because he had a camp. General Ambrose Burnside set up a camp here, and it's been Burnside ever since. But I believe that it was named after a woman who had killed herself, which I will come back to, because I think that's fascinating. I'm more fucking fascinated. Why would this woman kill herself, and then why would you name the whole town after a fucking suicide? I guess you're so distraught over her loss, but clearly you couldn't reach her. Judy is an unincorporated community located in Montgomery County, Kentucky. It is most noted for having one of the few remaining operating drive-in theaters in the state. And there's a drive-in theater actually here in Somerset too. So there's a drive-in theater in Judy, Kentucky, Montgomery County. So Montgomery County, there's lots going on in Montgomery County. So Shoe Boots seems like a good guy when it comes into fighting for his children. Eventually he tries to get his black children to be accepted as Cherokee citizens, which it seems like they allow him, but there's like, quit fucking, and he still fucks some more. Excuse me. And but the attack on Morgan Station, the last Indian raid on Morgan Station, was, it's kind of fucking crazy. So Shoe Boots was part of the 1793 raid on Morgan Station, Montgomery County, the last Indian raid in the state. And then Clorinda Allington, a white adolescent girl, was taken as captive, adopted into the Cherokee. Shoe Boots later married her, and they had children, William, Sarah, and John. A full-blood Cherokee slave owner, farmer, and veteran war hero, Shoe Boots fought for the Cherokee in the Battle of Horseshoe Bend during the Creek War. At this time, Shoe Boots held 2 African-American slaves, including Doll, who was about Clorinda's age. After Clorinda left, taking her children with her, he took Doll as a sexual partner and fathered 3 children with her, whom he named Elizabeth, Polly, and John. So they had like a common law marriage. So, that's super fucked up. I mean, who the fuck is this Shoe Boots guy? He's a fucking slave owner, so fuck him. He wanted to fuck this white girl, and I don't know how old she was, but she's fathering children. I don't know, what age he started doing that. And then after she leaves, he jumps on the black girl. So, I don't know, this guy just fucking killed people in Montgomery County, so his life story isn't all that, fantastic, but he, because he had kids and because he was able to survive, they said he needed to cease his relationship with Doll, but he fathered 2 more boys, twin sons Lewis and William, before his death in 1829. And unfortunately, he got 3 of those Doll's kids to be recognized as citizens, but the 2 children, the twin sons Lewis and William of Shoe Boots, were later forced into slavery by heirs of his estate. His sisters inherited his twin sons' property, and they unsuccessfully petitioned the council to grant emancipation and citizenship for the twins. So that's really fucking weird, man. It's really fucking weird. Basically, the enslavement of black people in Cherokee society was very much similar to European American slave society. They weren't allowed to teach them how to read. They, couldn't have sex with them and some other things. So that's, the last raid in Morgan Station. They killed 2, seized 20 hostages in the retreat northward. The Indians tomahawked 12 of the captives. Aside from filling militia levies to taking the warring elsewhere to the old Northwest against Tecumseh's alliance to New Orleans to fight with Andrew Jackson at Don Bull's final stand to the old Southwest against Osceola's Seminoles by the new county's Don, the United States had clearly won its first West. Americans poured down the Ohio River and came by the thousands via Daniel Boone's Buffalo Trace, which Kentucky's first governor, Colonel Isaac Shelby, had widened 20 years after Boone blazed it, as announced in the Kentucky Gazette, October 15th, 1796. The Wilderness Road from Cumberland Gap to the settlements in Kentucky is now completed. Wagons loaded with a ton weight may now pass with ease with 4 good horses. By 1800, Kentucky's population was 220,955, including 40,343 slaves. Kentucky's frontier era had ended. The hunters of Kentucky were no more. That's kind of sad, right? By 1800, there were no more fucking hunters of Kentucky. By 1776, there was only 200 white people in Kentucky. So they barely, scratched the surface. And that's, 24 years? So within 24 years, Daniel Boone's era only lasted 24 years. Daniel Boone dies in Missouri. He doesn't even get any of his land. Neither does Lincoln, Thomas Lincoln. His grandfather was shot on like 1,000 acres or some shit, and then they don't even get that fucking land either. So, a little bit about the origins of Montgomery County, Kentucky. Peace.